Morning, guys. It is Tuesday. JMart's with me. No, you're not feeling too great, so I appreciate you joining me. That's why we didn't do our college football show. So, first of all, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling better. It was a rough weekend, wrong weekend to not be feeling the best, but it's good to be feeling at least a little better today.
Cool. Well, let's get into it. We'll recap all the NFL action, the game from last night in particular, which I don't know. Steelers look pretty good. So it was against the Giants, but Steelers look pretty good. But first, I do want to talk about the Dodgers. They win again. I'm very happy about this, obviously, because I keep betting the Dodgers, and I'll probably do it again tonight. Just clutch. They're so much better than the Yankees at everything. It's so much fun to watch the Yankees. They just can't. They just can't do the little things right. They don't play defense. Plus, the guy scored. Dodgers when they challenged it earlier, it was like 3-0 in that game, and then they had a play at the plate where he actually scored. Umps decided not to give it to the Yankees, and then the Dodgers promptly threw out the guy at home plate in the following inning. So, yes, very excited about the Dodgers beating the Yankees. Hopefully, they close it out tonight. I don't know why the Yankees are favored. They got this Hill guy going, and the Dodgers are going to throw the bullpen out there, but I'll bet the Dodgers again. Steelers Giants yesterday, even takeaway. The under obviously didn't hit. Didn't help that they get the special teams touchdown. But Wilson made too many big plays. So why don't we start there? As a Ravens fan, starting to get a little anxious here about the Steelers and the way they're playing. They're starting to put it together. What was your takeaway from the game last night? In particular, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Russ was the right decision at quarterback. He just is better. I don't know what was going on in Denver that made him look so bad, but clearly he hasn't lost as much of a step as most people think he has. He looks like the same guy that was in Seattle. He just feels confident. He's making this Pittsburgh offense run really well, and they're one of those teams that they're not going to lose games they shouldn't lose. They're going to win games they shouldn't win, but they're never going to lose a game that they go into and you're like, they can't lose this game. They're going to win all of those. And that's the difference between them and the Ravens, is we've watched the Ravens kind of stumble in games where they can't afford to lose. It's going to make those records a lot closer than they should be come end of the season. It will make it at least a semi-competitive race for the North.
Yeah, they've won. First of all, how do you win 22 straight home Monday night games? That just seems like it's a ridiculous stat. Yeah, I don't know why they don't double team Watt at the end of the game like that, and he strips that. I mean, it's just he ruins the game. So Steelers win, Giants lose. I don't think the Giants are really worth discussing. It seems like they're falling apart. Why don't we stick though in the NFC? Because let's just talk about why I'm getting these things wrong with the Eagles, because we're 5-2 now, but I still can't shake it. Like, I don't know if I'm, how everybody just wants to be right. It's just the way of life. And I always say that you have to get off of something just to get it right. Like, you don't want to just stay on your opinion when you get new evidence. Was there new evidence last week with the Eagles against the Bengals? Like, was that the win where I should just shut up about the Eagles, or what? Because I still don't like them. It was 10-3 all the way through the first half, and then they sneak in the touchdown, and then that was it. So I don't know. I'm ready to bet the Jaguars this week, plus 7.5 at Philly. Talk to me about the Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, what you see in that division.
So the Eagles just have a ridiculous amount of talent. The talent's still there. It doesn't matter who the coach is. There's still a highly talented roster, specifically at skill positions on offense. They're going to be able to score 37 points pretty consistently. And when you look at it, the Bengals, we all know how good that team should be. We watched them make the Super Bowl just a couple years ago. I think we have to come to terms with the fact that they just aren't a complete football team, and they aren't as good as we think they should be. So Eagle wins against the Bengals don't mean as much as we feel like they should, because again, the Bengals just aren't winning games. They have talent, they just don't win. I like the Commanders. I'm really upset that they beat the Bears the way they did, but the fact that they have a rookie quarterback that's able to go down and do stuff like that just shows that this isn't going to be the peak for them. They're probably going to be that team in the NFC, which is something I never thought I'd say. And as far as the Cowboys, that's just typical Dak Prescott stat padding. It's when the game's up, he's going to come out, he's going to look amazing, but it doesn't mean anything. They still lose. I think they're comfortably third place in that division.
Yeah. And in the North, I don't know what to make of the Packers. They feel like they're building like something really special there, because Malik Willis comes in and gets it done again. They're going to get the Lions this week. The Lions could have scored 100. If you would have told the Lions they would have gotten paid if they scored 100 points, they would have scored 100 points. Like, if they would have all gotten like a $5 million bonus, I don't know how Tennessee was ever going to stop them. They were just absolute monsters. I thought the Vikings, even though they lost to the Rams, I saw a lot of good things last Thursday night. You just mentioned your Bears. How do you see this division after another week? Is there anything that's really changed? And then preview initial thoughts with Lions at Packers this weekend. And whether or not Love plays, I don't know if it really – I'm assuming it matters, but all of a sudden Malik Willis looks really good.
Yeah, so the big question mark for people that aren't Lions fans should be, can the Lions maintain the success, or did they peak too early?
Right.
Because they look amazing. They're playing flawless, but we're mid-season, and they're a momentum team. If they start losing some games late in the season, we could see, similar to like the Eagles last year, kind of a fade into nothing. I don't really think that happens. I think they're probably just the best team in the NFC. But if they start losing momentum, if they get down on themselves, you could see them kind of dropping games. That's when a steady team like the Packers that just knows how to win games. I think the Robert Saleh ad is like really interesting as a coaching addition, being a guy that's going to help coach the offense and the defense because he knows defense as well, but he also knows what works on offense. I think it makes them a little more dynamic. I think that they're just a really well-coached team, a well-oiled machine. They are a scary team. They're a team that the Lions could go into and get a little overconfident against and kind of get shocked a little bit.
Yeah, plus the game's in Green Bay. You got the Dome team going out onto the grass. What about the Bears and the Vikings? Takeaways? You think they're both playoff teams after this week? Or what do you think?
I think the Vikings could still be one. I think Sam Darnold's been good. Sam Darnold's definitely been good. I mean, he's not playing out of his mind like he was early in the season, but like regression back to normalcy is a little expected for Sam Darnold. We know he's not as bad as we thought he was, but we also know he's not as good as he was playing at. So expectation for him to drop a little bit. I think that the roster is still probably talented enough to sneak in a playoff spot, especially in the NFC. As far as the Bears, it's going to be an uphill battle. We can all kind of agree that even if they'd won against the Commanders, that record would have been a little bit fraudulent. That's not really as good of a team as they actually are.
Yeah, why was the offense so bad on Sunday?
The offense, we have the Seattle Seahawks old offensive coordinator, and he's really bad. He's just not a good offensive coordinator. He's going to hold the offense back for a while until they get rid of him.
What should be the identity? You're a big Bears fan. What should be? I scream every time the Ravens' identity is Patrick Ricard. Like, I don't know why we have to overthink it. We're the only team that has a fullback that's 300 pounds plus Lamar Jackson. So, therefore, the identity, I don't care if it's Derrick Henry or me in the backfield, we still should be running the freaking football because – that's the identity. And if you get away from that, you're going to lose to the Clowns. The Bears seem like they're in the same spot. They don't have an identity. They can't run the Kansas City offense, which is just Mahomes figure it out at the very end, and Caleb's doing too much of it. So what should the identity be? Should it be short, quick passing? Should it be a power running game? What should the Bears' identity be?
Well, the issue is they have the personnel for just air raid. Like DeAndre Swift's a great receiving back. Cole Kmet can catch passes. DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, big deep threat guys, really good at that. Keenan Allen's good at operating a little underneath them. The issue is they don't have the offensive line to run that kind of offense. So then you're trapped in a position where your skill position players are set up for one offense, but because you don't have an offensive line, you can't run it. You got to start switching up and kind of just running an offense that doesn't stay the same from quarter to quarter, week to week. You got to adjust to the defense. You don't want to be the team that has to adjust to the other team. And you want to be enforcing the adjustment. And that's the big problem for them.
And that's the opposite of what the Lions did, which was they build out the offensive line first. And that is the right way of doing it. Now you got to pick the right offensive lineman. But excuse me. But yeah, the Bears seem like they're not able to protect. And I feel like the Texans are having a similar problem. That's what I wanted to ask you. Why are the Jets favored here? I want to bet a lot of money on the Texans, but I don't feel great about betting Thursday night games ever, especially the road team. But I am absolutely floored that the Jets are 2-point favorites against the Texans. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit, go over to the AFC. I mean, I'm not betting against Stroud. Are the Jets going to win this game? Because obviously Vegas is trying to tell you that, right? They're 2-point favorites. They're 2-6. Texans are 6-2. Help me out here.
I'm going to assume the game's in New York because there's no world where – and then at that point, it's just I don't know. Apparently they have this game heads up if it was a neutral site, which is kind of weird. because
yeah, it feels like the Texans aren't playing very well. I mean, I get that. But they're still better than the Jets. But man, that number, I hate when I can't figure out a reason. That's when I get really nervous because I'm like, am I missing something? And maybe I know they played last year in New York, and Stroud got knocked out of the game, and it was like an ugly game. I'm assuming they don't match up great with the Jets, but the Jets' energy, I don't know. So that just threw me off as far as a spread.
So, well, the big issue is they match up kind of fine against the Jets too, which is the weird part. Joe Mixon can run all over the Jets. The Jets have not really had a solid answer for a run attack. Joe Mixon has been incredible this year, even with kind of a inconsistent offensive line in Houston. He's still been able to get the job done. We've watched Stephon Diggs step up into the wide receiver one role really well with Nico Collins being injured. So they are really good at running the ball, but you can't sell out for the run because they can beat you over top with Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Schultz, players like that. I really have a hard time seeing why the line's like that, which means that most likely the Jets are somehow going to cover. And there's no logical reason for it because the Jets have not looked good at all. Even with the addition of Devontae Adams, the offense runs a little better. But again, I think Aaron Rodgers is probably holding them back. That's probably the issue right now. And yeah.
Lack of identity there. Speaking of holding teams back, I said it yesterday. Flacco's got to start. Like this isn't. You can't run an organization. It's like running a classroom and always favoring the one kid, and it's like the rest of the kids now they're going to start acting up. Dude, he sucks. I mean, maybe he'll get better, but God, and I bet the Colts. I mean, I had $3,000 on Colts preseason bets. Like I love the Colts this year, partially because of Anthony Richardson. Mainly because of Steichen. When I see guys wide open, when Flacco's the quarterback and Anthony Richardson's the quarterback, and he does this and he just looks down, looks at his feet, nervous. How do I find a little gap to run through? It's like, dude, so am I missing something here? Because I think the Colts can actually make the playoffs. Their defense is playing much better. They should have beat the Texans last week. Flacco's got to be the quarterback. They're at Minnesota on Sunday Night Football. How in God's name is Anthony Richardson going to deal with the zero blitz? You can't zero blitz Joe Flacco. You zero blitz Joe Flacco, that ball's going over the top. So you tell me if I'm missing something, but I feel like the Colts have to go to Flacco.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like however many reps they gave Anthony Richardson in the preseason clearly wasn't enough because apparently they thought he was a lot better than he actually was because I don't think he ever should have been starting if this was going to be where his production level. So either they didn't let him get enough reps to get loose or they didn't see enough of him in the preseason to know what they had at quarterback. Zero blitz is going to kill him. Brian Flores needs to learn there are other plays in the playbook, but I get against Anthony Richardson, he kind of doesn't because he won't know how to read the blitz. I watched him at Florida. He is an incredible athlete. He's one of those guys that you could see in 5 years, like randomly coming around and being really productive. It takes a long time with a guy like him, and he doesn't match up with the Colts timeline at all.
No, not at all. The Colts are good. They have a lot of weapons. They're ready to go. There's a few other NFL things to get to, but time's a little shorter today, and I figured since we didn't do our college football show last week, you can kind of give me a slight update / preview because it feels like I don't know who the best teams are in college football. I think this is what college football wants deep down to mirror the NFL. It's probably better overall as far as ratings and more people involved and more schools thinking they have a chance. But the old college football fan in me is not loving this season where it's like, all right, this great team loses, but doesn't really matter. So kind of tell me what I don't know, maybe a headline or two as we're halfway through the season or a specific team that you think is going to pop or a team that you think is going to fade. Go ahead. Floor's yours. Any college football, first things that come to your mind.
So the one team that I really like, and I do think will kind of be a problem, is BYU. BYU has a defensive identity with a really good quarterback. You see college football teams with that exact MO. They're typically going to be a really dangerous team. They have just that. They've looked pretty unbeatable. Books keep pricing them poorly. They keep giving them underdog spots, really minute spreads. They've been a really profitable team if you've been betting on them. Outside of that, though, college football has been really non-profitable. It's been a lot of random stuff happening just for the sake of being random. It's unpredictable. It's been weird stuff. One team that has been pretty steady, though, is Oregon. Oregon just looks like the best team in college football. It'd be hard to make an argument against them being the best team. Both sides of the ball have been working really well since week 2. They beat Illinois really bad, and it wasn't a game where you can look at Illinois' offense and kind of blame them. They kind of just got beat. Outside of that, Ohio State, Penn State, got those two teams playing soon, if not next week.
They play this week? Yeah, that's the game.
Yeah.
This week.
That should be really fun. One of those teams is probably fraudulent, or they both are, or they're both really good. We will learn kind of more of the hierarchy in the Big Ten with that game. Tennessee will have some big games coming up. I don't think this week. I think it's Vandy. But we're going to see who Tennessee is in the coming weeks. They think they're really good. I still think they don't really have a quarterback. I think they have one at home. I think when you put him on the road, he kind of isn't that guy, and that's going to be a big problem, especially when you play Georgia on the road. And Ole Miss is getting priced as favorites against Georgia at home, which I get. Still kind of ridiculous if you watched Ole Miss play at all. That offense doesn't work against good defenses. I'd expect to see something more like Georgia-Texas for the Ole Miss game.
Will Georgia destroy Florida this weekend?
Yeah, I know Florida's getting a receiver back. I don't think it's going to matter.
Do you know, I didn't know when I first moved down here that the Friday they don't have school. Like, what is going on here? You guys do not value education in the South. That's why people up north always make these jokes. Like, what is going on? There's like no school on Friday of the day before Georgia.
So growing up when I was in elementary school, middle school in Athens, our fall break used to align with the university's fall break, and the university's fall break doesn't happen at a set like weekend every year. The set weekend is when Georgia-Florida happens. We get the Friday off so that the students can travel to St. Simon's, Myrtle Beach, Jacksonville area, and party for the weekend. Typically, the Thursday's kind of included, basically, is you don't expect people to show up to class that Thursday. Amazing. Because if you give someone a day, they're just going to take the day before it as well and then go down there. And the high schools used to also line up with that exact same fall break so that the professors and their families could also go down to Jacksonville for the game.
This is when Georgia, Georgia's recently, won the national championship. This is like just what the last one before that was in 1980. Is that right?
Yeah, it would have been the 80s. It would have been Herschel.
It was like a 40-year drought, and these people. You know what though? I think that life is all about like finding something you're passionate about. So if you live in the middle of freaking rural Georgia or wherever you are, and you're like, you know what? I love Georgia football, and that gets you going, and that helps you hang out with your family and friends. Good for you. I think I told you, I'd met somebody down here who was like, their friends were driving to Alabama just to tailgate and not go to the game.
That's common. Yeah.
It's like, what is there just not much to do around here?
That is normal behavior. That there are people that come to Athens and they say, oh, we just come to go out after the game. We don't really care about the game. We just want to be in downtown Athens after a game day. And
I'll tell you, the downtown, like I thought it was going to be a little bit, like everybody down here parties in like somewhat a responsible manner. Like I feel like if you went up north when they win the championship, they're always like standing on cars and lighting things on fire.
Well, we pulled last time someone pulled a tree out. So I don't know how they got the tree out of the ground.
Okay, I did see that one.
Tree and lit it on fire and just were carrying it around. We haven't won a little bit, but when we win, it will be. If we win, it will be pretty. It'll be rough. Yeah. It's entertaining.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on. I hope you continue to feel better. Me, you, and Clayton will do a pod in a few days, or we'll have a pod out on Saturday for to go over all the college football bets. And yeah, you hit your NBA yesterday. Morant didn't play, so that one doesn't count. And I'll just say this for the record: it's only funny because of the amount of money you're betting, so therefore you can just laugh it off and be done with it. But you are the perfect example. I didn't know this when I decided to put you on, but you're the perfect example of how you can really try your hardest and know what you're talking about. And a lot of these games still can come down to 1 or 2 yards. And it's like, if you're on the wrong side of it, it doesn't make you feel good, but I'll say it. And I'm sure everybody listening knows it or reads it. It's like, you know what you're doing. And that's the part that's even more like, all right, well, that's why you go to college and you get a job doing something else, because when you're right, it feels good. But when you're wrong, you're like, you start questioning everything. And I just want to tell you, I read everything you write. Sometimes you're way off, like we all are. But I feel like most times your bets that have lost have been really, really close. So I know the overall record doesn't look good. But I personally like reading what you put out. It helps me when I'm processing things. So just want to put that out there. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, stuff happens. All you can do is sit there and kind of hope that there is some regression again to normalcy, that every bad thing will eventually lead to a good one.
Yeah. If you're doing it the right way, then you just put the bets out there and you're done with it. So yesterday was a good spot for you. Lillard killed it. And that's the thing about you with the NBA prop bets is if you're paying attention, some teams just don't match up against certain players. And that's really where your value is going to be popping in. Like we know Lillard's good, but is he going to be good at the spot at Boston? It's like, isn't Boston a good defensive team? And so looking at your little write-up, it's like, okay, that makes sense. Bucks are going to lose by 15, but Lillard's going to get his, and turned out to be right. So good job on that. We'll have bets out later today. I'm going to ride the Dodgers. Nobody's going to talk me out of that one. So have a good day, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. See you, JMart.
All right, see you.